If you ever feel out of control around food, you're not alone, and you're in the right place to learn practical, no-nonsense information about why you binge and how to stop. Binge eating does not mean that something is wrong with you. It's a natural but primitive brain response that you can correct. If you're ready for change, sign up for the Brain Over Binge self-paced online course for less than $20 per month. And if you feel you need personalized support, we also offer one-on-one coaching and group coaching. To learn more, go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. And I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Brain Over Binge podcast, where you learn a simple, brain-based approach to ending binge eating. I'm Katherine Hansen, your host, and I'm so glad you've joined me today. If you're not already subscribed to the podcast, I encourage you to do that so you can be notified when I release new episodes. I'm trying to get at least 2 episodes out per month. And if you enjoyed this podcast and it is a beneficial resource in your recovery, I want to ask you to consider leaving a review on iTunes or the platform of your choice. It would mean a lot to me if you could share how this podcast helps you, and this will help others find the podcast as well. In today's show, I'm going to be addressing some questions, but I first want to give you a little background for this episode. Back in November of 2020, I started doing live streams on Instagram where anyone can join and ask a question, and I answer as many questions as I can in 1 hour. I've picked out 4 questions and the answers from these Instagram live streams that I want to share here today. The first question is about trigger foods, the second is about the pace or the speed that you eat, the third addresses exercise, and the fourth question will address how to choose meals and snacks in recovery. If you want to join these Instagram live streams, they're totally free and open to everyone. They take place on the 3rd Tuesday of each month at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and I'll give you more information about that at the end of this show. I hope you enjoy the different style of this episode of just sort of listening to me answer questions on the spot. I usually carefully plan out what I'm going to say in my podcast episodes because writing is definitely my strength over speaking, but it's been a fun challenge to run the Instagram lives, and I really appreciate everyone who has joined and participated so far. And here are the 4 questions and answers. Do you have any trigger foods or binge foods that you avoid? I'm just curious. No, I do not at this point in my life. I didn't even at the time I recovered. I feel like there were some binge foods that, I wrote this in my book, that I just no longer wanted. Like when I was binging, I would have these cravings for these foods. And once I stopped eating in that way, in that just really primal, driven by the lower brain state, I found that my higher brain or the lower brain is involved in eating as well, like normal eating. But I just didn't really want certain foods anymore. So it's not like I said, okay, I can't have these foods anymore. It's just those foods were only really appealing when I was being driven by that habit, by that, primal drive. So, there are some foods I kind of never ate again after binging, like some really processed junk that I would get from like gas stations and just not good things that I wouldn't really want today. So I do eat processed foods. I do eat all types of foods. So there's no binge foods that I avoid. But that being said, that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong if you don't. Before I gave up binging, I had learned to eat most things in moderation. I was not really restricting that much anymore. And that was just what worked for me. So if you feel like there's certain foods that really set your urges off and really make it hard for you, I don't think that's a problem to avoid them right now, if that helps. But don't, I guess I just don't want anyone to feel like they're doing anything wrong if they avoid a certain food for now, or if they eat all foods. It's really kind of up to you. And I think that's where maybe a lot of approaches, and I'm not saying like I'm right here. I just try to, over the years, I've learned that it really is an individual choice. And when people say, okay, to stop binging, you can never eat sugar. To me, that just sounds like, there's so many people, me included, who have eaten sugar and stopped binging. So I just think making those sort of like bold recommendations as far as what you have to eat or what you can't eat, it can just make recovery a lot harder than it needs to be. So kind of went down a tangent there, but I hope that helps. No, I personally did not avoid any foods purposefully to stop binging, but if you need to, that is perfectly okay. I hope that helps. How do you learn to pace, eat slow, small amounts. So, I mean, my initial reaction is that you don't have to eat slow in small amounts. I think that can be kind of weight loss advice, and not that it's bad. Like, I think that chewing your food has benefit. Obviously you need to chew, but like chewing your food a lot can help you digest better. It can help the food give you more energy. It can help you recognize hunger and fullness. Like most of you probably know that it takes the brain a bit to register fullness. So the slower you kind of eat, the better that I guess it gives a chance for your brain to catch up. So it can have benefits, but if you take it as a rule, like, okay, I have to eat slow, I have to chew every bite a certain amount of times, then it can kind of be frustrating. I felt like I was always frustrated by it, because I didn't really want to eat slow. I was bored, and I felt like I had other things to do, and I just kind of want to eat, and I'm kind of like that today. I mean, I don't eat fast, but I definitely don't eat slow either. So, everyone's different, but I just would kind of tell you, instead of constantly trying to get yourself to do that, if that's what's going on, like, maybe question it a little bit. Like, do I need to eat this slow? Is there a pace that's comfortable for me? Like, this is the pace that maybe someone is telling me I need to do, but what feels right to me? So that's just like my general initial reaction. Now, if you do feel like it has benefits for you and you want to eat slow and you want to learn to pace yourself to sort of get in touch with your hunger and fullness and to digest your food better, I think that it can be really good practice, like, to basically unlearn a habit. If you've gotten into this habit of eating fast, if you've gotten into just this habitual pattern of like really eating fast, and that's kind of how most of us, like if you have a binge eating habit, you binge. So it can be a way to counteract that and to set your normal eating apart from your binging. So it can be a good thing. Basically, you can feel your brain and feel your automatic reaction is to speed up, and you can, take pauses and kind of gently get yourself to do that, or put the fork down, or count, a few seconds. And I think if you view it more as practice, you view it more as, okay, I don't have to be perfect, but I'm just going to add some pauses. I'm just going to add a few breaths. I'm just going to, you can even set really small goals. Like today, I'm going to take 2 minutes longer to eat than I did yesterday. Like really small goals until you find a pace that works for you. So I hope that kind of gives you some things to think about. Don't make it a rule for yourself, but use it as practice to unlearn those patterns of habitual fast eating that's kind of connected with binging, and to learn what feels good to you, like for normal eating. Next question is, did you work out a lot in early recovery? In early recovery, let's see. So when I was binging, my purging was exercise, like a lot of exercise. I was doing hours and hours. And so when I stopped binging, I was like so glad to let go of that. And I just immediately stopped the purging behaviors, like the over-exercise, because it was so exhausting. And I probably exercised, I've exercised most days, not every day, but maybe like 30 minutes. Mild, moderate exercise. Every now and then I'd work out harder, but 30 minutes, 40 minutes, like maybe 6 days a week. So not a ton, but also like, I definitely like to be active. I was always an athlete. Like I ran track in college. I, just really enjoyed exercising, but I really, really did not enjoy exercising to purge. And that was something that just was so relieved to not feel so compelled to do anymore. But exercise is different for everyone. Obviously get a doctor's opinion if to know if you're okay to exercise. Like some people get in such a depleted state from the eating disorder that exercise isn't even advisable. So definitely make sure you're healthy enough for whatever exercise you do, and definitely make sure that you're eating enough to support it. Some people think, okay, I've stopped binging, and you get in this mindset where, okay, now I want to lose weight. So the eating will stay the same and exercise will increase, and then you're kind of back in this cycle of restriction. But I would say for most people, exercise is okay as long as it has a proper place in your life and you're not using it for unhealthy weight control behaviors. Okay, next question is, I'm struggling with choosing meals and snacks in recovery. Any advice? Okay, so choosing meals and snacks in recovery. It can be difficult if you're used to like binging and restricting and following other people's diet advice. Most people who are in recovery have been just spent a lot of time following diets, following someone else's plan, not trusting themselves. So when suddenly you're like, okay, I'm going to decide what to eat, it can be a lot of questioning of yourself. And I think self-compassion is probably the most important thing. Just give yourself some slack. You're not going to choose perfectly every time. You're not going to feel like every meal is right. And I think taking a bigger picture perspective is really important, because if you think that every meal is vital, and if you choose the wrong thing, then, you're going to be back in restriction and back in binging, then it can be really stressful. But if you just remember that kind of no matter what you choose, you can still dismiss the urges to binge. You can still make sure you eat enough. Even if you mistakenly eat less, the next time you eat, you can eat more. You can make corrections without ever tipping back into those harmful behaviors that have, caused you so much pain in your life. So I think just being forgiving of yourself, being just not as perfectionistic, dropping some of the perfectionism surrounding meals is something that I think is very beneficial as you're choosing. And then getting down to more of the details of choosing, if you do need nutritional support or someone to help guide you, there are great dietitians out there. They're great. My course has a lot of information on learning how to help yourself decide what a way of eating that works for you, because I do think that's what it ultimately comes down to. So basically, just doing your best, really, that's all it comes down to. I think people want a specific prescription, a specific meal plan, a specific, this is the way it has to look. And it doesn't. I wrote a blog post, and the title is something to do with paleo. It was paleo eating and my recovery diet. And I basically laid out what I ate. And this was 15 years ago. So the dieting, not dieting, but the nutrition advice and what's healthy, what's considered healthy is a lot different. My diet then, which I thought was healthy, was a lot of whole wheat products and a lot of breads and a lot of pasta and things that I thought were decent, and a lot of dairy and things that today people say, oh, you shouldn't be eating that or whatever. I mean, I still do, but it just doesn't have to be perfect. And I was still able to recover. So kind of thinking it's just one meal, it's just one snack. It's just, you can make the best decision you can and then move on and continue to kind of improve, and you'll feel more confident in your decisions as you go on.
I hope you took away something useful from those discussions. The next Instagram Live will be on May 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, I'm doing this every month on the third Tuesday. You can join the live stream by simply clicking on my Instagram profile at that time. You can find me on Instagram at brain_over_binge. All of the recordings of the Instagram live streams, and there are 6 so far, are archived in the course. So course members can access these 1-hour recordings anytime. And to learn more about becoming a course member for only $11 per month, you can go to brainoverbinge.com/subscribe. With that, I'll wrap up today's show. Thanks again for being here, and as always, I want to encourage you and remind you that you have the power to change your brain and live a binge-free life.
The Brain Over Binge podcast is produced and recorded by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC. All work is copyrighted by Brain Over Binge Recovery Coaching, LLC, and all rights are reserved. As a disclaimer, the hosts of the Brain Over Binge podcast are not professional counselors or licensed healthcare providers, and this podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or any form of professional therapy. Eating disorders can have serious health consequences, and you are strongly advised to seek medical attention for matters relating to your health. Please get help when you need it, and good luck on your journey.
Need more help? You can find all of our current and upcoming options for support at brainoverbinge.com.